De que ya viene la revolución, para que se asustan será pa' mejor. Es el pueblo entero el que ya está gritando, ¡viva la revolución!
Iranian nuclear weapons development.
They have turned the island into a communist hellhole.
The experiment in Venezuela has failed completely.
La bestialidad imperialista. Bestialidad que no tiene una frontera determinada ni pertenece a un país determinado. Bestias fueron las hordas hitleristas, como bestias son los norteamericanos hoy, como bestias son los paracaidistas belgas, como bestias fueron los imperialistas franceses en Argelia. Porque es la naturaleza del imperialismo la que bestializa a los hombres, la que la convierte en fieras sedientas de sangre que están dispuestas a degollar, a asesinar, a destruir hasta la última imagen de un revolucionario, de un partidario de un régimen que haya caído bajo su bota o que luche por su libertad. Y la estatua que recuerda a Lumumba, hoy destruida pero mañana reconstruida, nos recuerda también en la historia trágica de ese mártir de la revolución del mundo, que no se puede confiar en el imperialismo, pero ni tantito así, nada.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 38, Unmasking Imperialism, exposing imperialist propaganda in mainstream media. Today, we're talking about capitalist media and how they're controlling your mind, my mind, everybody's mind. We're all controlled by these wealthy bankers, imperialists around the world who are using certain tactics and strategies to make us fall for their lies, for their propaganda. And we're going to focus on, in particular, background music. That's something that always interests me as somebody who comes from film and media, because it's interesting when you watch a movie, Netflix or a TV show or something, and a lot of times they'll have some inspirational music, quote unquote, in the background, and it kind of sets the tone for how you view things politically. For example, when you're watching something about the DPRK, aka North Korea, they always put scary, ominous music in the background to make you feel scared, to make you feel a sense of urgency or anxiety. And that has a psychological impact on how you view the DPRK in general. But then when you have commercials about the Democrats or the DNC or capitalism and entrepreneurship in the US, it's always some corny ukulele in the background trying to make it seem cutesy. And it's interesting to see that. So we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about catharsis. What is catharsis? We'll go into that in a bit. And also alienation and late stage capitalism and how the capitalist imperialist ruling class uses media to make us even more alienated in this already alienated hellhole that is capitalism in the 21st century. Joining me today is one of my homies, my good comrades, Josh Finn. Josh is a revolutionary communist from New York. Shout out to New York. That's where I'm from, born and raised in New York. I live out in Cali now, but he is in New York. Josh is the host of In Defense of Liberation, a show working towards educating people on a true proletarian revolution. I posted the episode we did a few weeks ago on alienation that a lot of people enjoyed, so make sure to catch that. Make sure to subscribe to In Defense of Liberation on iTunes. Give him a 5-star review. Great content there. How's it going, Josh?
It's going well, comrade. Thanks for the introduction. It's cool to finally be on the show. I got to say that one thing that I'm really excited about is being able to be in a space where we can talk about these things, because, you know, whenever you bring this up, you always get like the side eye glance from folks when you're talking about, like, do you not see, like, I always get it with like Marvel movies and shit where like I cannot sit through one without just pointing out every little instance where it's like, how are we watching this shit right now? but it's cool to not get attitude for pointing it out in this instance. So
most definitely, I get that shit from my family all the time. Where they're like, "You gonna be talking throughout this whole thing?" I'm just like, "Yes, I will be providing communist commentary throughout every problematic scene." So
not gonna get it anywhere else. So.
Of course. But good to have you, comrade. By the way, are you in detention? It looks like you're in detention at a high school, or you're in an office, or where you at? You're at your spot right now?
This is my really, really desperate attempt to remember things. I got like 3 schedules going, and I still end up forgetting shit. So just be happy I showed up on time. That's all I gotta say.
That's what's up. That's cool. I use Google Calendar, but I guess that's not a good thing because then fucking Google knows everything that I'm doing every day. So
they know it already, comrade.
Oh yeah, they already know. And also joining us is compañera Mercedes Gómez, who is a writer and scholar who focuses on Puerto Rico and its economic relationship to the U.S. since 1898. Also has really good writings on proletarian feminism and combating machismo and sexism within the left. Really great content. I highly suggest it. How's it going, compañera Mercedes?
Sorry, I was muted. Good. I'm tired. I had a very long, grueling week. So this is a nice it's a nice respite.
Release.
You know? It's a nice release because all day I'm just like, God damn capitalism. So now I get to complain about it with other people who won't think that I'm weird.
Most definitely. And it's hard sometimes when you're the only communist in your area or circle and you're seeing, it's like once you have a class consciousness, you see things in a totally different way. It's like you have a new lens of understanding reality. And when you're seeing certain things and other people aren't seeing them, it's like, how are you not seeing that? And
you're like,
other people are like,
man.
what? Right. You're like, yo, it's crazy.
I had like a supervisor who was kind of making a comment on like other people job interviewing because they need like a bunch of new dudes. And she mentioned how somebody had done an interview and they said like one little thing that she was like super aghast and was like, no, then they didn't get it. And I was like, I mean, that's a really minor detail. Can they do the job or not? And it just got me in like a 2-hour long rant inside my head with no one but me.
Yeah, that internal dialectic is always, that always happens to me too whenever I think
like shower is like, oh damn.
Right, you're like, yo, what the fuck? But anyway, shout out to everybody who's watching, listening. My foot in your ass says, I'm guessing they said ADHD gang, but they wrote ADH gang. But yeah, that's what's up. And communist ADHD gang out here analyzing propaganda. And it's something that like a lot of people will look at us like we're crazy, right? Like we're talking about mind control and propaganda, but it's happening every day of our lives. And I want to start off by playing a clip of the Facebook metaverse. I don't know if y'all heard about that. So Facebook is changing their name to Meta, and the goal of Mark Zuckerberg is to create a whole new alternate reality where you work, where you live, where you hang out with friends. And I just picture people just perpetually being sucked into like a headphone and a headset. It's like Black Mirror, right? Where like you put on that headset and you just like knock out, and that's how you spend your day. So I want to play a clip of this new metaverse video. I guess you could call it like a simulacro, like a version of it, and then get your response to that.
Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space. It has parts of your physical home recreated virtually. It has things that are only possible virtually. And it has an incredibly inspiring view of whatever you find most beautiful.
Hey, are you coming?
Yeah, just gotta find something to wear. All right, perfect.
Boy.
Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on?
Hi.
Mark. What's up, Mark?
Whoa, we're floating in space? Who made this place? It's awesome.
Right? It's from a crater I met in LA.
This place is amazing.
Boz, is that you?
Of course it's me. You know I had to be the robot, man.
I thought I was supposed to be the robot.
Whoa.
I knew you were bluffing.
Hey, wait. Where is Naomi?
Let's call her.
Naomi.
Hey, should we deal you in?
Hey. Sorry, I'm running late, but you've got to see what we're checking out. There's an artist going around Soho hiding AR pieces for people to find.
3D street art? That's cool.
Send that link over so we can all look at it. This is stunning.
Dude, that is something.
That's awesome.
Wow. I love the movement.
Wait, it's disappearing.
This is amazing.
Hold on. I'll tip the artist and they'll extend it.
Wow. Brilliant. Did you guys like it here? I have another room that you're gonna love. Check out this forest room.
Huh, let's see it.
Koi fish that fly? That's new.
This is wild. Hey, one sec, pause. It's Priscilla.
Hey, you have to see this. Beast is going crazy.
Oh, I love that guy. We've got to show that to the kids. Can you also send that to my dad?
I'll message him.
All right, see you at home.
A lot of weird, creepy stuff in that video. And the reason that I think it makes it even more creepy is, first of all, the background music. It's like this corny pop music that you hear if you're like at a bar in Midtown Manhattan. And it's designed to set a certain theme, right? Because if you were to play some creepy music in the background at this app, you're living in a virtual world that's collecting all your data. Because, by the way, look at the Facebook papers that came out, that have been coming out these past few weeks. Facebook knows and records every single conversation you have, including Instagram, by the way, which Facebook owns Instagram. So they know everything you say, everything you do, everyone you talk to, what gets you upset, what gets you happy, excited, sad. They're able to manipulate that. They're trying to create this alternate universe where you do all of your activities in that universe, in this metaverse. And it's something that's really creepy to think about. Another thing I noticed is also the fact that they even try to go intersectional with it. Like they have a Trini woman in the video who's like, you know, acting all normal as if a Trini woman in Silicon Valley, like as if they would treat her like an equal, because we all know how racist and scumbag people are in Silicon Valley. And even just everything about it, I feel was so synthetic, so fake. And it's like an episode of Black Mirror, honestly, when I saw it. And I think it taps into this understanding of like, they understand that people are alienated, people are alone because of capitalism, because of COVID-19. People are still stuck at home. And kind of like tying this into what I wanted to talk to about catharsis is the process of releasing, providing relief from strong repressed emotions. And so I feel like the Facebook metaverse in a way is tapping into that. They know that people are stressed out with work, they're alienated, they're alone. And so they want to release that stress and create this metaverse where people can do that and do all sorts of crazy shit. And that's kind of what I think, that's how I see it. But I don't know if maybe Josh, you could start off with your response to that.
So we definitely can't forget the fact, and I even messaged you folks about it, he's got to take the moment, Zuckerberg, to become self-aware and be in on the joke about him like a true dork that he is. Like, oh, you're the robot. I thought I was supposed to be the robot. But it's like, that was the first thing I noticed was him. He has never been capable. Yeah, it is so plastic. He's never been capable of like looking like a real human being. And then this throws me for a loop too, because what it really is intending to be is, of course, a distraction from the way the world is going. But, you know, there's even ways that it's going to be used to be, you know, monetized. You know, you have the ability. I was listening to an episode of By Any Means Necessary from Radio Free Sputnik. And they were talking about the fact that you can buy and sell items in the metaverse. Like, that's how you get the things that are in your house. So not only is it going to distract people from like the real world issues like environmental collapse and, you know, social issues, capitalism destroying every, you know, bit of life that's worth living, but it's also going to take the little bit of money that the working class people have and siphon it away from all the things that they actually need. And it's going to, of course, lead towards a complete depoliticization as the rest of the media that we consume is. And it's just, it it's scary. It's really trippy. It's really trippy. It's really dystopian. And I hope that before this becomes, as prominent as our worst fears make it, that we can do something about that old Zuckster. He's always got the sweet baby rays on deck, so.
I'm convinced he's a space alien, and he's aware of it. He's like, oh shit, they know I gotta play cool. By the way, shout out to compañera Deborah Rodriguez, who's watching, listening to Tommy McGee and everybody else. What do you think, Mercedes?
Well, that was interesting. I hadn't seen it before. Like, I kind of meant to, and I didn't. So I took notes. First one was it was like the Matrix, and I was like my first thought was like, oh my God, it's the Matrix. Which kind of made me think sort of like, oh, there's going to be the people who do go into it and people who don't. He is a lizard person. It also reminded me, I don't know if anyone's ever seen, there's a Mexican sci-fi film called Sleep Dealer. It's really good if you haven't, and basically it kind of talks about kind of using virtual reality. This one used virtual reality for immigrant labor and all this kinds of stuff. It talked a bit about like the U.S. military. It's a really good film. So it reminded me of that. But also I just kind of, the way I see it is a bit like Google Glass. I don't know if I was in heavier in STEM when Google Glass was trying to be a thing, and there was like those that felt like it could be really great, and I felt like most people were like, that's stupid, and then nobody used it, and nobody thinks about Google Glass, and it failed tremendously. And in the same way, I kind of feel like something like this, I think you'll have a couple people who get into it. You'll have some people who kind of putz around on it and then they go home and then they do whatever. But honestly, like, I personally have a bit more of a positive view on people. I think people are more aware of the crap that's going on. Even if it's not at a very deep political level, I think we all kind of are aware, like, listen, this is nice, but I gotta go home and feed my kids. I gotta go, eat dinner. I have all these things to do. And human nature doesn't do well with just being digital all the time. And even like young kids, all the young like Gen Z kids who are in high school, they're like, I don't want to be doing this all the time. I don't want to be on the internet. I want to go outside with my friends. Like, I'm tired of being online all the time. I kind of think it won't do as well as people think. So I'm hoping that I'm right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's something that it's really concerning, especially for the younger generations. I was at Starbucks the other day getting iced coffee, and as I usually do in the afternoons because I'm addicted to coffee, and I see the group of kids coming out of high school, and it's crazy because when I was in high school, at least my generation, we didn't even have cell phones in high school. And some of us did, like not all of us did, but some of us did. And if those of us who did, we barely even used it. Like it was an accessory. It wasn't the main thing. And I see kids now today, these poor kids, and they're all sitting at a table. They're not even talking to each other. They're just all on their phones. Like kids meet up to chill in person, but then they're on their phone the whole time. And it just taps into alienation, and it taps into how technology, something that Marx mentions in Capital, which I think is one of the most profound quotes in Capital, is that just as in religion, man is dominated by the products of his own mind, in capitalism, man is dominated by the products of his own hand. And we don't have to say just man and woman, but humans, we're dominated under capitalism by the products of our hand, of these phones, these media apparatuses. And that's not to reject technology, right? Because as Marxists, we understand that we shouldn't reject technology outright. We should use it for the purposes of pushing for socialist revolution, for educating the masses. And it's something that the capitalists know very well how to use it to promote capitalism. And so I want to play this clip. There's this guy named Dan Peña. I think he's Latino. I think he's Chicano. I'm not too sure. But anyway, he's this billionaire. He's a Latino billionaire. He's supposed to be like the success story. If he can do it, anybody can do it. And so this video is called Dan Peña's Advice for Young People. He's a businessman and entrepreneur and the creator of Quantum Leap Advantage methodology. And again, listen to what he's saying, but also listen to the music. Because I bet if you were to take off the music, he would just sound like some crazy old bumbling lunatic, like an asshole. Just hear the way he talks, because the music plays the role of relieving that stress of like, because everybody wants inspiration. Everyone wants to feel inspired. Everyone wants to feel like they have a release. And so the capitalist media, they tap into that, but then they subvert it by combining it with this pro-market, pull yourself up by the bootstraps message. So I'm going to play this and get your reaction.
Bill Gates slept in the office. Steve Jobs slept in the office. And I can go down a whole list. Now, these are super successful, mega wealthy guys. I slept in my office. Not everybody's willing to make that sacrifice. But it's not the only thing. But even if you don't sleep in your office, if you want to send your kids to a better school, if you want to be able to take care of your mother when she gets dementia, if you want to, this all takes money. My children aren't getting any of my money when I die. I'm not going to, I think Andrew Carnegie, by the way, Andrew Carnegie, arguably the richest, most successful entrepreneur of all time, he said the best thing that you can have for a child is him to be born into poverty. And I agree. But most of you don't have, and I say generally speaking, most of you don't have faith in yourselves because you got low self-esteem, no self-confidence. You look like shit. You dress like shit. And you blame it on the 21st century, the reason why you dress the way you do. 25 years ago, if you come to a seminar like this, you'd all be wearing suit and tie. 40 years ago, the women would be wearing hats. This is my uniform. I don't go to sleep like this, but I mean, this is my uniform. It has been for a long, long, long time. If you want to get money from banks, dress like the president of your country. You come in looking like some of you, I wouldn't give you fucking toilet paper. You only have one time to make a first impression, kids. Before I had any money, I used to go to the Rolls Royce dealers and sit in the cars and smell the leather, touch the leather. I went to $1 million houses, and my wife and I would walk through the house, and they'd say, "When are your parents getting here, kids?" No, we are the buyers. Practice within when you're without. Practice being successful. How many people listening to this today practice being successful today? Within 19 months of me dreaming and adding it to my goals, a castle on an island, I own Guthrie Castle. Go to stores you can't afford. Go hire lawyers you can't afford. Lawyers will meet with anybody. Accountants will meet with anybody. Go to the big four accountants with a business idea. The first couple meetings are for free. Jettison probably a lot of the people you hang around with. A lot of people don't believe they deserve to be there. I convince them, and we have these drills, why you belong there. A lot of people that come there, with money, that have made money, think they made it by accident.
So this bumbling old fuck is going on about capitalism and why you should dream. Just think of it in your mind. And y'all had some funny ass comments in the comment section. Tommy McGee says, seriously, these people are nuts. Comrade, shout out to Comrade Salifu. This is insane. And and Brewski said, yeah, I'm tuning out the song out, and oh my fucking God, this is ridiculous. If you take out the song, it's just a crazy old guy yelling at you and telling you to be better, to smell leather. He loves leather apparently, and he's obsessed with just being rich and getting money. So again, right, this is what, like, a video like this, by the way, this video on YouTube got like millions of views, and people in the comment section are like, oh my God, so inspirational. So, and this is mind control. This is the shit that, like, if I were to send that to my cousins right now or my family, they would be like, oh my God, thanks for sending me Monday motivation. Like, this is amazing. And it's really sad to say that, and it just compels us as communists to do a better job of creating content. But your reaction, Comrade Josh.
So first and foremost, I want to just say that while this video was going, I just did some quick Google searches because his one quote really astonished me. He said, what was it? Andrew Carnegie said that the best thing for a child is that they're born into poverty. So as of 2019, around 10,000 children die every single day due to hunger. Around 35 million are displaced every single year. Now, that is a crazy quote to just throw out there. And it is only rich people who say shit like that and put on this, framework of like they always are saying things like you can do whatever you want. You just put your mind to it. He goes, in 19 months, I was thinking about this castle and then I bought it. Well, don't you fucking have to have money in your account to buy a castle? Like, you can't just in 19 months be thinking about a castle and boom, even if you're working for those 19 months every single day, you're not buying a castle, dude. Like, there's no way. So I think one of the most ridiculous parts about this and the capitalist propaganda that we see every day, the rise and grind bullshit, the stocks bros bullshit, like all of the Elon Musk fans who I don't know if you know this, but somebody who is like a hacker posted on I think it was on Twitter. They said folks who like steal people's money love targeting Elon Musk fans. They find them on Twitter and they'll reach out to them and they'll say that they have some like multi-level marketing thing that they need investors for, and that's how they scam folks, is the Elon Musk fans. So like it's just bullshit. It's outright bullshit. And that's why they need that background music. That's why he needs to say outlandish quotes that, throw your mind over here for a second. So by the time he finishes it, you don't even know what the fuck he just said, but he's wearing a suit and he said that you're not wearing a hat anymore and he likes the smell of leather. So you need to step up your game. I just think that at the end of the day, this is toxic as fuck. Capitalist propaganda is a plague on the working class people. We need to be doing a better job in our individual lives as well as content creators to not just, debunk this shit, but really inspire a different kind of motivation. Because I think if we look at the incredible things, for example, you just went to Nicaragua. If you look at the incredible things that the Sandinista government and the Nicaraguan people are doing, that's motivational as fuck. And not for nothing, that takes it to a much, I feel as someone with the ideals and the beliefs that I have, it's that much better to be doing it in the way that the Nicaraguan people are doing, because they're doing it as a community. They're building something that everybody has an opportunity to take part in and be supported in, and ultimately be safe, because even this, bullshit of work your ass off, pop a hip out and you can't sleep in your office with a bad hip anymore, dude, and I just think that ultimately at the end of the day, I think we have a lot of work to do here in the United States as communists.
Most definitely. And it also alludes to the contradiction between idealism and materialism, because idealism is something that for people who are learning about Marxism, the two main philosophical world outlooks are idealism and materialism. Idealism is prevalent in religion, in capitalism, that if you think something, it'll become reality. I think, therefore I am. That famous Aristotelian quote. Marx and the Marxist tradition, communist tradition, inverts that and says, I am, therefore I think. The material precedes the ideal. That we have certain thoughts and ideas because we have brain and cognition, and the material conditions of society determine the ideas that you have in your mind. So if you're growing up in one of the poorest countries in the world, in Congo, in Somalia, and Yemen, you can't just smell leather and think about some castle and it'll just magically pop up like that asshole Dan Peña was saying in the video. It's based on material conditions. That is the primary determinant factor in how you live life. And I think it's something that's important to point out as well, because then that plays a role in how we as communists create propaganda. And also, lastly, I want to say that that's a great point you made about making good content and propaganda sexy and interesting and thought provocative, because we're competing against the major corporations that have all the music entertainment industry. They have all the weapons at their disposal. And that's why it's so important for art and culture and music to be part of every revolution. And I think in Nicaragua and also in Venezuela and Cuba and elsewhere and China, music has been so integral to the revolutions, and it's a way of passing down tradition, creating a culture. and it's a way to counteract the capitalist media and propaganda and brainwash. But compañera Mercedes, your reaction to Dan Peña and everything that we're talking about?
First of all, I concur. Not concur. I disagree. You can sleep in your office. If you have a bad enough sleep schedule, you could definitely sleep in your office. But besides that, I have to write things down because otherwise I don't remember them. Blah blah blah. So I felt like it was interesting because he does use like good points where it's like, oh, if you want your kids to go to a good school, you need money. If you want to do this, you need money, and it's true. And I think that's the part that gets people motivated. And I think not enough of us, unfortunately, think like, oh, why is that? That's a problem. Because, you know, like from the time you're a kid, like what do you see? It's like, oh, that guy's like the rich guy, he could do all these things, it's magical. Or even like, oh, it's the Disney princess, and the guy who's the good guy who wins and who could do all the things and save you is the rich dude. And you know, yes, it's true, you need money right now in the system, but the problem is why. And it doesn't matter how you do need to work hard to a degree, because everywhere in life you have to work hard. If you're in an if you're in an equal society or not, too. But like, you could be a doctor and be broke here. You could, like, me personally, like I have a master's, I have a bachelor's in engineering, and I'm in an entry-level job making okay-ish money with the fact that I live with my parents. Like, the whole meritocracy thing is just bullshit. And yeah, I agree. I think one of the nice things about like technology these days and about like millennial and Gen Z culture is that even if people aren't that like aware, I think there's enough criticism that even if you don't have like the shiny music and like the pretty pictures, I think enough people make good comments and content that more people are being aware and being able to say like, oh wait, you can look over here at Nicaragua and they're doing good stuff. Like, that needs to change. That needs to happen over here. Unfortunately, it gets co-opted, but
yeah. Well, no, most definitely. And shout out to everybody who's watching, listening, by the way. The user My Foot in Your Ass had a funny comment. That's a funny username, by the way. I'm curious to know how that came about.
Yo, that's our homie. That's our homie.
Oh, yeah?
Andres.
All right, cool. I was like, all right, that's a unique username. My Foot in Your Ass.
Shout out Andres. That's the homie.
Oh, shout out to Andres. All right, that's what's up. Shout out to the homie Andres who's out here in Cali. Said if hard work is all it took, then the Mexicanos working the fields picking strawberries for 12 hours a day should be the ones wearing the Monopoly suits where their videos at.
It'd be so cool to see a video like that. Just like, you know, oh, look at us, we're working hard, and I don't know, kind of turning that narrative on its head.
TikTok has a few accounts where some workers post, like they call out like politicians all the time who like run their mouth and say that you know, these immigrants are coming across the border and stealing our jobs. There's all these TikToks where they're like handing out their tools or their gloves or whatever, and they're like, come take the jobs, man, you want the job so bad, here it is.
That's hilarious. I gotta check that out. Yeah, stuff like that is a great way to combat it. And one of the other arenas in which capitalist propaganda, capitalist media is used to promote mind control in favor of the system of imperialism, of capitalism, is in the military industrial complex. The US having the largest military industrial complex in the world, the largest armed forces than any other country in the world combined. And part of that is appealing to broad sectors of poor people in the US to try to join the army, the Navy, all that bullshit, who are predominantly people of color, poor people in the suburbs. And I've been seeing a lot of this quote unquote intersectional army propaganda. There's this one that came out recently called Emma the Calling, which already sounds annoying as fuck. I'm going to play this, get your reaction. But this is how they're using, again, take a listen to the background music, the way they're branding it, and look at how they're literally using mind control tactics to try to get you to support capitalism and imperialism.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms. Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident that left her paralyzed. Doctors said she might never walk again. But she tapped into my family's pride to get back on her feet, eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom. With such powerful role models, I finished high school at the top of my class, and then attended UC Davis, where I joined a sorority full of other strong women. But as graduation approached, I began feeling like I'd been handed so much in life, a sorority girl stereotype. Sure, I'd spent my life around inspiring women, but what had I really achieved on my own? One of my sorority sisters was studying abroad in Italy. Another was climbing Mount Everest. I needed my own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
Oh my God, I'm so inspired by Emma. I'm going to join the Army now by her intersectional lifestyle, and just really disgusting, man. I mean, the music, the soft piano music, the build up. And it's interesting because as I was doing research about this process of music, mind control, and catharsis, again, catharsis, when someone says I had a cathartic moment, right? It means you're living your repressed emotions through somebody else, right? You're living out something that you can't do through somebody else or through a video. And it's a release above all else, right? It's a release of strong repressed emotions. And if you take a listen to the music in that video, it starts off very slow. It's like one little keystroke, dun, and then it keeps building up. It gets a little faster. And it mimics literally an orgasm, right? It mimics, it's this build up, and at the end, the Army, join the Army. And it's like, it equates that release. It equates that release and that when you literally, like, there's a chemical reaction that happens when you orgasm, that you get endorphins, you get a dopamine hit. And you get a dopamine hit as you hear that tension build, and then that release at the end. And this is all part of mind control. This is all part of catharsis. And as I was doing research about it, there was this group called the Cathars in Europe in the 12th, 13th, and 14th centuries. They were Christian Gnostics and mystics who were traveled town to town, and basically they used music. They were kind of like medieval fuckboys, you can call them, who would go to different towns. They would play all this music, use the same buildup, and try to get women, try to get people sexually active and have sex with them, and then go to another town. So they were regularly kicked out. They were called the troubadours. They were musicians, and they used music to control people, to control people's emotions. And that's where the word catharsis comes from, cathartic, from the Cathars, who were these groups of traveling medieval fuckboys who use music to control people sexually. And we see them doing that in this commercial where they create this build, and then the release is her going into the Army, sprinkle in some intersectional woke stuff in it, with the moms and everything, which is good, but it's like they're using it for capitalist and imperialist propaganda. So it's crazy to see that. Your reaction, Comrade Josh.
So we know that one of the main tactics of the, we'll call them right broadly, is to co-opt the vague identity politics of the left in order to capitulate to the shifting ideals of the people. And so one thing that we see time and time again is the use of people's identity in order to justify whatever it is, they're trying to feed to us. In this case, go join the army. I wrote down liberalism is a plague, because I think really that's what this video shows us, is that the liberalism that we've been fed on many different levels has led to, as I mentioned earlier, a depoliticization where a video like this can be made and like there's no huge reaction of people going like, wait a minute, this is the largest empire in the history of mankind that has over 800 military bases across the world, of which a majority of them, you have to understand, these military bases are stacked to the point where they can wage a full land war in order to seize state power. That's what these fucking military bases are for all over the place, and to ensure trade, of course. But my point being that liberalism has completely disconnected people from the reality that we're living, to an extent where the US military can make this fucking ad among so many others and try its hardest to really get people into the mood of just going to war, of just feeding this empire exactly what it needs. Now, as we know, the history of imperialism, whether it was the Roman Empire, the British Empire, or the US Empire, has been predicated on the pillaging and the complete destruction of the land, the resources, the working class, and the markets of countries outside of itself. That is one of the main arguments that Lenin puts forward in Imperialism, Highest Stage of Capitalism. Now, the reason why this is important is because imperialism does not always look one way. One way it's trying to look right now is woke. And this is a huge dilemma for the left because it's getting people. Not that people are stupid, not that people are completely, beholden to this propaganda. People need college. People need food on their table. People need a guaranteed pension. And they know that. So they'll throw some, little woke ideals in there to catch some folks who maybe were on the on the other end thinking they don't really actually want to join the military, and grabbing those few because they know that for a lot of people, unfortunately, their political understanding is not deep enough to see through this as clearly as we might want them to. So again, this is really ultimately a charge for the left to take up, because this shit is already happening, meaning the US empire is organized. We know this. They are militarized. They're all over the world. They're putting out ads like this, which means they have all kinds of confidence that they at least got some life, ahead of them. We have to build some form of oppositional power that can point out why not only this is bullshit, but why we need to actually organize ourselves to do anything about it. Because it's not simply enough to, it's great time sitting here talking about why these ads are bullshit, but this isn't combating, that power that was capable of making that ad. So I think what we really need to take from this is that the U.S. empire isn't stopping anytime soon. They're going for whatever round we're on, and they're gonna keep going until something constitutes a force stronger that can take it down. And I think that ultimately that is our real duty as communists today, to see to the end of this empire's destruction of the world.
Most definitely. And shout out to Comrade Erica Kane, Peace Comrades. Erica has a great program called Liberation Through Reading that provides revolutionary reading and education for young students, especially in the Baltimore area. And I think the work that she does is a great example of combating this sort of imperialist propaganda, introducing youth to Kwame Ture and other revolutionary leaders early on. And I think that's exactly the kind of work that we should be doing. Comrade Mercedes, your reaction to that beautiful U.S. Army video?
Oof. It was literally the meme. That meme that's like got like the torpedo or like whatever bomb, and it says like Black Lives Matter, and it's got the pride flag.
Right.
I think it's interesting, you know, kind of what Josh was saying with how they put like kind of sprinkle in something seemingly woke, and then, you know, therefore you're gonna get people. And you know, in the video, the girl was saying how, you know, she's been surrounded by strong women, how she wanted to break stereotypes, and so you could tell like it's gender stereotypes. But when you actually see what the US does, and other Western countries too, like just to kind of throw them in, but what they do, they make lives, especially for women, so much harder. You know, if capitalism has an impact on everybody, it's got double the impact on women. If austerity has an impact on everybody, it's got double the impact on women. And not only on women, but also on the kids we raise, on the old people we have to take care for, on all the additional crap we have to deal with. So just because you put in a couple ladies into the US Army doesn't mean you're going to solve gender disparity, or, you know, that's what's going to make it equal, you know, because like bombing your country, you know, just really great for our equality when destruction will lead to more things like lost opportunities or increased chances of rape, or, you know, kidnapping or what have you. So I think going back to that is like reading more, you know, yeah, stuff like this does get me a bit depressed, because I'm like, oh God, you know, we're fucked. I don't think we are, but it gets me in that mode, kind of like the opposite of what I'm going for.
Right. No, and we'll definitely, I think that's a great point you mentioned. And I'm tapping into that, I think, because a lot of people feel this way. Like a lot of people think about people like us here. We've been introduced to communism. We're students of Marxism, of communist ML, and we have a way out. We have a way to seek inspiration. Imagine for the younger kids who are recognizing that capitalism is fucked up. They're seeing all these different things, but they're not properly introduced into communism yet. And so they're veering off into these other random ideologies, sometimes the far right, sometimes other things. And that's why it's important for us to really be able to combat and to have a higher quality of media that combats this. I wanted to play a clip. I found a speech. So just kind of tapping into this theme of rebranding empire, because I'm so glad that both of you mentioned that the U.S. empire is the most disastrous in history. People like to, obviously the Nazi Germany was horrible. They did horrendous things, but people like to act like the U.S. empire is not as bad, if not worse, than the Nazis and what they've done. And they're rebranding imperialism through ads like these with the Go Army ad and Emma Calling or whatever. So I want to play a clip. This is a Nazi propaganda video. So first I'm going to play it without music, and then I'm going to play it with an inspirational theme song in the background, just so y'all get a sense of how it totally shifts the mood and the vibe. So I'm going to play those right now.
This year they say there are 800,000 pairs of boots standing heel to heel, waiting for the Führer's final speech. And the high spot comes when, after a detailed review of Nazi achievements, Hitler cries, "My life's fight has not been in vain."
Indem ich euch ihre Blicke weise ich, mein Lebenskampf ist nicht umsonst gekämpft. Sein Sowjetzeichen soll vor sich hertragen, und wir werden in unserem Zeichen wieder siegen.
So that's without music. This is with the inspirational music.
This year they say there are 800,000 pairs of boots standing heel to heel, waiting for the Führer's final speech. And the high spot comes when, after a detailed review of Nazi achievements, Hitler cries, "My life's fight has not been in vain."
Indem ich euch ihre Blicke weise ich, mein Lebenskampf ist nicht umsonst gekämpft. Sein Sowjetzeichen soll vor sich hertragen, und wir werden in unserem Zeichen wieder siegen.
So
you had
totally,
fun mixing that, didn't you?
You know, I did. It totally changes the mood and the vibe, right? And for me, when I heard the Dan Peña video, when I heard the U.S. Army video, I heard it without the music. I heard it in its original, raw, crazy, fucking psychopathic, fascist version. The way that the Nazi one, the first one, is. But then once you add the music, it totally changes the vibe. It makes it feel inspirational, makes it feel like somebody's overcoming it, has this release. And it's something that we have to be aware of. This is happening every second of every day. Every time we get ads on YouTube, on IG, whatever it is, they're using these techniques. And it's something that is fucking crazy to think about. Your reaction, Comrade Josh?
So a few things. First and foremost, let's I saw a comment somewhere. Let's not forget who inspired Hitler to do what he did. So oftentimes we hear incredible propaganda about the ways in which, for example, the Soviet Union was akin to Nazi Germany, when in fact it was the Soviet Union who put an end, in a lot of cases, to the continued domination of the Germans at that time. So the video itself, I think, is ridiculous because all those people are military officials. They had to be there. They probably would have gotten, everything that they had taken away and maybe shot for not being there. So that's dork shit. Hitler couldn't even put a crowd together, and not for nothing, he could speak. I mean, like, to be able to get up there and fucking scream like that, like, you can get people inspired. So the fact that those nationalistic, Nazis were cheering and smiling, it's not incredibly ridiculous. I mean, Trump can't give a goddamn speech, but you still have all these people who are going to his stuff and clapping and, waving signs. So the ridiculous nature of, I want to say, like, that video is just the fact that it was so incredibly staged. And that's what propaganda is. It's staged. It's meant to convey a point. And that's why videos like that yeah, there's homie Andres again with a great comment. But you know that the media that we're fed is fed to us for a reason. And I think with the heightened militarization of the U.S. empire all across the world, and the continued, of course, these ads coming out and stuff like that, it's clear that we're in for something big coming soon. So we have to get prepared, and we should see the history of Nazi Germany not as some distant, far off, awful dystopia, as the way that we're often taught it in history. Fascism is Hitler. Hitler is bad. Germany was bad. That's history. That's how we learn about fascism. But fascism is alive and well. Fascism is foundational to the U.S. empire. It has always been foundational to the U.S. empire. And in fact, the historical development of Germany throughout the 1930s up into the 1940s looks very similar to not only the same time in the United States, but also right now. Because one thing that Hitler did incredibly well was he went to the capitalists. He went to the imperialists. He went to the bourgeois. He held a conference. I believe it was I can't remember. I'm forgetting the name, but I believe it was the Dusseldorf conference, where he had the richest members of the bourgeois there. And he basically gave them a speech where he was like, your blood is better than the blood of poor people. You are, the creators of history. You are the dominators of the world. And he did that because that's how he became what he became. Was he rode on the nationalistic and on the imperialistic developments in Germany. That's happening right now in the United States. And you have folks like Donald Trump who are oftentimes compared to Hitler. Donald Trump isn't who you have to be worried about. Donald Trump is the face to a ridiculous side of the far right, but there are people all over the country right now taking actions upon the ideals which, we think are just locked away in 1930s, 1940s Germany, but they are alive and well here in the United States and being acted upon. And to watch propaganda videos like this makes me fearful of, really what, because I got all kinds of nieces and nephews growing up and going to school right now. The propaganda we were fed, post 9/11, I can't even imagine the shit that they're learning now. And it terrifies me because there aren't many folks like the three of us teaching those classes, being able to, go about putting the truth out there. So I think, as I've said before, one of the main things that we need to do going forward is we need to get organized. We need to be going out on the streets. We need to be talking to people. We need to be building popular education. We need to be growing our communities. And ultimately, we need to be fighting the rise of fascism in the United States, which has not ever gone away, but has only come in different forms and taken new names like liberalism and neoliberalism, I guess, would be an even more proper one nowadays. But yeah.
Well, most definitely. And touching on that topic, shifting to Compañera Mercedes, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got radicalized, Compañera Mercedes, and what made you understand capitalism? What books or speakers or films introduced you to socialism and Marxism? And if you have any book suggestions or movies or podcasts that you would advise for people who are new to socialism and communism to better understand how capitalism dominates every aspect of our life.
Ooh. I think for me, it was kind of like a long journey. Plus, like, I was always kind of raised a bit socially aware just because my mom's dope. But I feel like the first movie that really like clued me in was Machuca. Best movie in the world. Everybody needs to see it. It's about like it's about a friendship at the time of like Allende and then the Pinochet coup and all that kind of stuff. God, if I had to say a book, I don't know if there's any one book. You know what? F it. There's two books that are right next to me that I feel like are good. So one is American Sugar Kingdom, just because it's not really necessarily like.
What's that about?
It's about like Puerto Rico and Cuba, Dominican Republic, Philippines, and Hawaii, and kind of how the sugar industry and the banks and all those were used together for the benefit of the U.S. And if you actually look, it's a lot of the same banks that are still used today. And then this book, it's called Invisible Woman, and this one is more about like the lack of data on women, but how it kind of makes our lives more dangerous. Not really answering the question, I feel, but yeah, I guess those books kind of. I feel like I have an atypical journey into the left, but I try to take a lot of unrelated things and think about how they impact life. So
yeah, most definitely, and I think everybody has their own path. Like I feel like there's no quote unquote proper way to become a leftist or a communist. I actually came into socialism and communism first through kind of random, but through atheism and conspiracy theories. I'm still kind of into conspiracy theories.
Kind of on that.
Yeah, I'm still kind of on that. But I evolved to understand that it's not some baby blood drinking family that's responsible for international capitalism, but it's an economic system. And even just reading Capital now and understanding how that works helps me to understand that. I think for me, I really got into conspiracy theories and especially atheism for two reasons. Growing up in New York after 9/11, seeing the Twin Towers and everything, I was like, yo, what the fuck just happened? And I was like, okay, the US, and then seeing the war in Iraq and how all these things didn't match up, it started making me question about narratives and mainstream media. And also seeing how the right-wing evangelicals were using religion and being Islamophobic and criticizing Islam and Muslims. And that also made me become more of an atheist. And then I started learning about Nietzsche. And then from Nietzsche, I went to Marx. So everybody has a weird kind of path into socialism. And it's okay. I think that really is the point to get it to a point where you're reaching people where they're at. But what about you, Comrade Josh? What was your entry into socialism and communism? And what are some works? Oh, yeah. What's up?
I'm sorry. I do want to add because I feel like it's kind of relevant to people's different paths. A big one for me was switching out of STEM and into the humanities. And STEM, one of the big reasons was I was like, I don't want to be in the military. I don't want to be like fucking people up and killing them or poisoning them. And that's, if you look at STEM jobs, that's like all there is.
Yep.
And I hated that switching into the humanities or even thinking of doing that was like my worth as a person gone. My credibility in anything gone. Suddenly, like, oh yeah, it's okay. You don't need to like have a decent meal or anything like that. Like it doesn't matter. You don't need a living salary. Like that really kind of got me thinking.
It's like they're training you to be like a robot, like nuclear scientists or technicians. All these people are being hired by General Electric and Raytheon to create wars and war equipment and missiles.
And that's not even a few areas that you can actually have like a decent salary, like within the area and like within like having just like a nice like chill life, do what you want, but like not go crazy. Otherwise, yeah, have fun. So I just wanted to add that because I feel like that's really relevant for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's a good point because I think a lot of people now, even myself, I'm somebody who comes from the humanities and I'm in the process now of applying for trade apprenticeships. I'm trying to get trade skills, but I'm seeing just exactly like you're saying that a lot of jobs and positions that are opening up for all these trades that are coming up are within the military industrial complex. So it's fucking crazy to see that. And it's something that we have to consider as we radicalize ourselves, but also want to gain valuable skills that can be used for the revolution. What about you, Josh? What was your entry into Marxism, socialism, and what are some books that you suggest that people, or even not even necessarily books, podcasts, films, videos, revolutionary heroes that inspire you out of alienation?
So for me, it was a long fucking trek. Anyone who doesn't know me, my family is incredibly conservative. They are evangelical Protestants of the whitest kind. So what really, in all honesty, what started me down a path of really questioning that initially was my amazing partner, who I met when I was 14, 15, and we've been dating since. They helped to point out a lot of the, they shout out Mayara. They helped me through a lot of the bullshit that my parents fed me. And, I make a joke that one of the prerequisites to becoming a communist is hating your parents. So that's one thing that honestly led me to questioning a lot of things. Because I mean, if you can get as blind, as covered in blinders as you can, it's evangelicism. I mean, it's complete bullshit. Everything that not to like completely tear into them, but everything my family believes is just bullshit. Their entire worldview, everything that they do on a day-to-day basis, is incredibly, filled with lies. But I eventually got to a point where nothing that anyone I was talking to, nothing that they were saying was anything I could really agree with, whether it be politically, socially, or even just, jokes. Like I was getting to a point where like the racist, homophobic, sexist jokes that my homies were making in high school that were funny until like a week up until that point, because I'm a piece of shit white guy who grew up in this, environment. It finally hit a point where I was like, I can't really get with this anymore. And eventually I started doing a little blog called Annoying Question Boy. And I named it that because I was at a point where I had a bunch of questions that nobody wanted to answer, that nobody wanted to talk about. So I started writing about it. Eventually, I got introduced to Marxism in a few different ways. A friend of mine introduced me to some podcasts, and that kind of was it from there. The things that really did it to me, to radicalize me, I would have to say would be this pandemic. The way in which the U.S. government and the Western ruling classes of the world, the United Nations and others have responded to this pandemic is pathetic. The United States ought to be, really have a light shined on it. countries like Brazil and others who have left the lives of working class people just completely in danger, ought to be, I'd say tried, but we know that doesn't do anything. So I'd say something else, but that'll put me on another watch list. So I'm not going to say that. But some books, some podcasts to read. One that just came out that I think everybody should read is Comrade of the Revolution, Selected Works of Fidel Castro. This is because this came out from Leftward. And then a really incredible book, although I will say it's a hard read just because of the brutality and the true nature of the colonialization of Southern America, but Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano. Definitely got to check that out. Podcast by any means necessary. Check out Unmasking Imperialism. Tune in. Always doing great content. Check out websites like The Gray Zone. Check out People's Dispatch. Check out Troika Collective. There's all kinds of great content out there. But especially I would like to say to folks that as great as reading is, as great as listening to podcasts is, once you get to a point where you're aware of what the problems are, that something needs to be done. You've educated yourself to a point where you have two choices. You can do something or you can do nothing. And I think at this point in time, as much as learning and educating ourselves is incredible, we got to stop doing it alone. We got to get organized. We got to start joining revolutionary parties. We got to start building revolutionary parties. We got to start building forces and organizations which cannot just simply educate people, but can give them the tools and the weapons, if needed, to liberate themselves from this oppressive system, whether that be, from within the belly of the beast here in the U.S. empire or from outside. All of these ideas are only as useful and as practical as we make them.
Most definitely. And Mark Zuckerberg is in the back telling Mercedes, yo, you saying too much. We gotta censor you. He's threatening me. Yo. But just to wrap up, compañera Mercedes, any final thoughts from you in terms of any advice for younger people getting into Marxism and socialism? I think especially what would be helpful as well is maybe how to navigate these spaces as a young woman, because I think especially for young women have a very different experience navigating the left. There are a lot of we've spoken about this extensively before. There's a lot of creepy dudes and weirdos and just fuckboy shit that happens in the left, and that's unfortunate, but it's a reality. What advice do you have in particular, especially for young women communists who want to be part of a movement, but also be in a safe and secure space?
Ooh. Well, first I want to add to the, and maybe this will kind of tie in, but the bit where where Josh, you were saying, joining groups and being revolutionary. I think that also has to tie into not just, I think a lot of people think about just a militant revolution, which sooner or later is inevitable, but people also have to think about their daily needs, or the fact that the point of all those things is to have a better life, and to have your needs met in terms of food safety, in terms of health and things like that. And then I think thinking about those makes you really you have to, at least to me, I center my femaleness in all of it. So for me, I like to look at okay, we could be talking about proletariat owning the means of production. That's great and it's necessary, but how are you going to help me? Are you what's the quote? It's you read feminist lit, but do you do the dishes? Making sure that the people that are in your circles aren't just going on about revolution, but are they taking care to make sure women's voices are being heard, that women's needs are being heard, that when you're talking about a new workforce or new ways of life, that you're including specifically women's needs, that you're advocating for the safety of women, because there's plenty of people we've talked about this, Ramiro, it's the activists who are like using these spaces to be like, I'm a good guy, I think, you know, because I'm left. And then you're like, okay, yeah, but you're still a piece of shit. Like, you still or you're great when women agree with you, but when they start agreeing with you, then all of a sudden you're alienated, you're this, you're that, you're a bitch, you're whatever you want, like whatever, you know, really like hold people to their principles and also challenge your own principles, because you might be like, well, this is okay because this is just how people are. And 9 times out of 10, I'll say no. Yeah, you have some differences, you know. Yeah, people are limited in their ability of growth, but you shouldn't be an oppressive dickhole, basically. That's really how to word it, but
yeah. That's what I had to visualize that dick hole. I was like, okay. But no, totally.
Sorry. My word choice is colorful.
But totally. But Josh, any last words from you on related to Mercedes' really good points?
I think that the thing that really shapes the revolution is the people who build it themselves. And if you look at countries like Cuba, if you look at countries like Burkina Faso, if you look at countries like Nicaragua today, you see that it is and should be women and oppressed folks who have to suffer, as you were mentioning earlier, any oppression that we feel. Women, trans folks, Black, brown, and indigenous folks are feeling double, triple, quadruple the amount of, you know, alienation, oppression, things that we're suffering through today. So I think that one of the most important things to actually building a revolution, actually seeing that through, is by actually building it in a way that it's going to cultivate a different reality, because we don't want to just manufacture a different version of the shit that we have now. We need to actually liberate people from the oppressive positions that society has built for them and that for the oppressors have placed them in. Unfortunately, there are plenty of folks among the left who can say nice things, who can read a lot of good books, but as you said, are still dickholes.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's
I like that word. It sounds like something that like my parents don't speak English that well, so I just picture them saying like, "You dickhole." I just picture them calling somebody a dickhole. I'm gonna start saying that. But yo, I love both of what y'all said. It's completely on point, and it's a process, right? Even myself with my girlfriend Ophelia, who all of you know at this point, we work together. Like there are times when I'm like editing videos or reading, and she's like, "Yo, did you do the dishes?" I'm like, "Nah." Well, dude,
you
like,
literally
all right,
don't
cool.
do the dishes.
And you have to, and for me, I have to check myself in that sense as well. Like as men in the movement, like we have to be aware of that. Just as within any other class hierarchy within the movement, you know, if you're white, if you're non-Black or indigenous, if you're male, you have to be aware of that, and not necessarily like feel like you can't be a part of it, but just to have the respect to be like, yo, I have this amount of privilege, like let me hold back in this regard. So I'm really glad that both of y'all said that, and I think it's a beautiful way to wrap up our discussion about combating capitalist media and mind control. Again, we spoke with comrades Josh Finn and Mercedes Gómez. Josh is a revolutionary communist from New York. Shout out to New York, my hometown. And he is the host of In Defense of Liberation, a show working towards educating people on a true proletarian revolution. Please subscribe to In Defense of Liberation. The link is in the description. It's on iTunes. And please give him 5 stars for his podcast. And also shout out to Compañera Mercedes, writer, scholar, who focuses on Puerto Rico, aka Borinquen, and his economic relationship to the U.S., especially since 1898. Thank both of y'all for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. I'd love to have both of you on sometime soon. And I want to go out with some revolutionary music talking about culture, right? We were talking about this whole time about building an alternative to capitalist propaganda and mainstream media. This is one of my favorite communist songs from Víctor Jara, one of my favorite communist writers and singers from Chile. It's called A Desalambrar, and to get rid of, to uproot the capitalist system. Peace out, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yo pregunto a los presentes si no se han puesto a pensar que esta tierra es de nosotros y no del que tenga más. Yo pregunto si en la tierra nunca habrá pensado usted que si las manos son nuestras, es nuestro lo que nos dé. A desalambrar, que la tierra es nuestra, es tuya y de aquel, de Pedro y María, de Juan y José. Si molesto con mi canto alguien que no quiera oír, le aseguro que es un gringo o un dueño de este país. A desalambrar, que la tierra es nuestra, es tuya y de aquel, de Pedro y María, de Juan y José. A desalambrar, que la tierra es nuestra, es tuya y de aquel, de Pedro y María, de Juan y José.